was 2.26%, and IFCI NAC, whose financing was 4.63%. At a time when the government is bent on privatizing some of the public sector banks, creating a sense of anxiety and anger among the 10 lakhs employees in the banking sector, they are already out on the street protesting. In fact, they have issued a warning that if the government goes ahead with this privatization move, they may resort to a long bank bond agitation. Sir, the current bill does not contain adequate provisions of National Bank for financing infrastructure and developments, accountability to the stakeholders and the public at large. In conclusion, sir, setting up a new DFI in India through budgetary and legislative measures is not a difficult task, but big challenges will emerge once it is established to ensure that it is well capitalized, well managed, and remains committed to its distinct goals and core values. Thank you,
madam. Thank you. Professor Manoj Kumar Jha ji.
शुक्रिया डिप्टी चेयरमैन साहब. दिस नेशनल बैंक ऑफ फाइनेंसिंग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड डेवलपमेंट पे बहुत जोर है. एंड आई बिलीव, आई कोट, very few words are as feeble, as fragile, and as incapable of giving substance and meaning to thought and behavior as development. World over, this word itself is a crisis. I am not talking about the crisis of development. So, जयराम जी ने हम में से बहुतों का काम बहुत आसान कर दिया. शुक्रिया जयराम जी. माननीय डिप्टी चेयरमैन साहब, आज़ादी के बाद इस तरह के कई प्रयोग हुए और हमारे साथ दिक्कत क्या है ना, सिर्फ इस हुकूमत के साथ नहीं कि हम अपने, कोई कह रहे थे कि इतिहास से आप सबक नहीं लेते हैं. जो असफलताओं का कारण रहा उन इंस्टीट्यूशंस का जिन्हें हमने बनाया, उन कारणों की पड़ताल के बगैर अगर आप एक नई बॉडी बना रहे हैं जो कि ह्यूज बॉडी है, विशाल बॉडी है, रौंदने की भी क्षमता रखती है, मैं समझता हूं कि उस पर एक बार पुनर्विचार हो. ये सलाह के नजरिए से कह रहा हूं सर. अंडर सेक्शन 5 it says centers shall own at least 26% of its stock at all the times. बड़ा गर्व का विषय है कि 26% हमारे पास रहेगा, 74% कहीं और रहेगा. अब ये 74%, मुझे ये जानना होगा मैम फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर, how many countries in the world actually allow private capital with this quantum of controlling stake? That is a point of worry, and I hope you take my worry away. और दूसरी बात, आत्मनिर्भरता का बड़ा जिक्र होता है और मैं सोचता हूं कि ये कौन सी आत्मनिर्भरता का मॉडल है. कम से कम बचपन से जो हमने पढ़ा सीखा, ये आत्मनिर्भरता अगर है तो आत्म और निर्भर के बीच में एक इतना बड़ा हाइफन है जो शायद कभी भरा ना जा सके. सेक्शन 35 ओवरसाइट की बात जयराम जी कर चुके हैं. निगरानी या पर्यवेक्षण का होना किसी भी बॉडी के निर्माण के साथ ये एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण पहलू होता है. आप कोई भी बॉडी बनाए, अगर निगरानी के लिए इसमें कहा गया है नीदर एनी इन्वेस्टिगेशन एजेंसी कैन कंडक्ट एनी इंक्वायरी नॉर एनी कोर्ट कैन टेक एनी कॉग्निजेंस इनटू एलिज्ड क्राइम और व्हाटएवर हैव बीन कमिटेड अंडर एनी लॉ. सर, इस तरह ये पारदर्शिता पर पर्दा डाल रहा है. मैं चाहूंगा मैम फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर, with good intention, you have to actually jettison some of these doubts, clarify them and tell us that actually it didn't mean. And that's why I believe कि हमें इसकी कोशिश करनी चाहिए थी कि इसको हम सेलेक्ट कमेटी में भेजते और एक बार तमाम स्टेक होल्डर से बात होती और उसके बाद होता. आपने बजट में भी कहा था कि 7,000 प्रोजेक्ट्स हैव बीन आइडेंटिफाइड अंडर द नेशनल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पाइपलाइन. मैं माननीय वित्त मंत्री साहिबा से जानना चाहूंगा कि इसमें से बिहार के हिस्से में कितना है और मैं बार बार आजकल कह रहा हूं मेरे राज्य को लेकर के बस एक चीज कि बिहार को विकास की भूख है, और उस भूख को मैं आप ही की सरकार की बात नहीं करता हूं, मैं तो ये कहूंगा सन 47 के बाद से बिहार को उसका हिस्सा, उसका हक नहीं मिला है। बहुत बड़ी बड़ी बातें हुई, लेकिन बिहार सब, और मैं फिर दोहराता हूं कि बिहार के विकास की भूख को इस पाइपलाइन में कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स लीजिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में, और उस भूख को खत्म करिए। माननीय डिप्टी चेयरमैन साहब, खत्म ही कर दे रहा हूं एक शेर के साथ। जब हम ही ना महके फिर साहिब, तुम वादे सबा कहलाओ तो क्या, कुछ दिन तो बसो मेरी आंखों में, फिर ख्वाब अगर बन जाओ तो क्या।
धन्यवाद, धन्यवाद। डॉक्टर नरेंद्र यादव जी।
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Chairman, sir. Sir, I rise to wholeheartedly support this bill, the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021. Sir, the main challenge post-COVID-19 is to pull up the economy from unprecedented depth to which it has reached. As we are aware, in the financial year 2021, the real GDP growth rate is estimated to be minus 7.7%. So since we want to pull the economy up from the depth that it has reached, the principal objective, as I see it, of the budget 2021 was to facilitate the real economic growth as much as possible, and there are predictions of more than 11% growth in the coming financial year. In order to achieving high growth is not a big challenge, but sustaining that growth is a big challenge. If we want to achieve and sustain the high economic growth, the Indian economy is going to need a very strong infrastructure base. The government has already been doing remarkably well in the arena of infrastructure, and this will get a big boost in terms of setting up this particular National Bank for Finance, Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021. Sir, my colleague, member Jairam Rameshji, made a number of points, and I'm sure the Honorable Finance Minister will take care of the points that were made by him. I personally do not want to go into the political economy of the infrastructure, but I would rather look at it from purely as an economist's point of view. Sir, another honorable member, while defending Jafarji, talked about China's huge infrastructure investment. This is absolutely correct, but let us not forget that the gross domestic saving rate of China has been unprecedentedly high, exceptionally high. So what we do need to do is to encourage and promote gross domestic saving rate in India, which after achieving the peak of 38% of GDP is now come down to 31-32%, and this needs to change, and I'm sure the Honorable Finance Minister will take care of it in the forthcoming budget. But I agree with the Honorable Member Jafarji in as much as he says that the timing today is most propitious for tapping foreign direct investment, especially when many investors, several investors are withdrawing from China and looking for opportunities elsewhere. And also, today the global economy condition is such that very large amount of funds are sloshing around in the global economy, and we must take advantage of that. We must take the best of the opportunity, and therefore I believe, sir, that our policy would have to be two-pronged. On one hand, we promote domestic saving, and on the other hand, we promote foreign direct investment into the infrastructure sector with adequate precautions. Sir, with all these remarks, I commend the bill for passing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Narendra Yadav ji. माननीय श्री नारायण दास गुप्ता जी, 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Sir, when I was going through this bill, what I have noticed is, because if I go through section 5, there is a clause for allotment of shares. Although originally the shares will be allotted to the central government, and finally it will be retained only to the extent of 26%, rest which go to the number of other institutions, and they are named here. These are multilateral institutions, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, insurers, financial institutions, banks, etc., etc. Out of this, sir, two institutions, the definition of two institutions has been given here under section 2, insurer and the pension fund. The definition for the other shareholders and contributors, that is not given. I would like to know from the Honorable Finance Minister why this is so. Sir, this because the 70% will be held, the share capital by the, not by the Indians, by the elsewhere. So from the draft of the bill, it seems that it has not been drafted in India, it has been drafted somewhere else. I would like to know, because the reason is, sir, there are a number of things which has been given. If we go through section 37, what is mentioned here is, sir, that the loans and advances given, its validity will not be challenged by anyone. As Jairam Rameshji has said, it is not subject to any scrutiny, neither by the CAG nor by other independent authority or the surveillance. And that's why what is that? No, it will not be challenged by any the validity of the this. I fail to understand why this section 37 it has been said like this. And sir, because there were already our other friend from the Treasury bench, he has said why this has come. Because it will not only the finance, it will provide finance, but it will develop the finance. As Jairam Rameshji has said, that there were already about 10 institutions who will already in this business of providing finance and developing of the finance. And what has been told here, that because there are certain inherent problems in those sections, they fail to do that. So why we are creating this? And one thing I have noticed, sir, अभी हम जो पीरियड से गुजर रहे हैं वो जो है निजीकरण कर रहे हैं, पीएसयूज को हम प्राइवेटाइजेशन की तरफ जा रहे हैं और एक पीएसयू और क्रिएट कर रहे हैं. ये दिस इज ए विरोधाभास है गवर्नमेंट की, सरकार की पॉलिसी में. जो ऑलरेडी पीएसयू जो है उनका निजीकरण कर रहे हैं और एक पीएसयू और जो है नया हमारे इसमें प्रावधान करके लाया जा रहा है. दूसरा शब्द I will say, because it should be, this audit provision should be through audit CAG, because as per section 27, what is stated it, that it will go as per the Companies Act, because this is the total will be financed and by this to start with by the Government of India, which should be subject to the scrutiny of the CAG, and because there is no other agency which has been authorized to do the scrutiny of the business of the this new I will say the finance company. With this, sir, I would like to say that it should be sent to the select committee, and let the select committee should apply its mind and see what are these things, how it has come, where already
Gupta
there are.
ji, kindly conclude.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Shri Kanak Medla, Ravindra Kumar ji.
Thank you, Madam, for giving this opportunity to speak on the National Bank Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill. I think the intention of starting these banks may be very good. There is a sovereign guarantee being given to this. The idea of the sovereign guarantee to give low-cost loans is very good attempt. We want development banks, we want infrastructure banks. The whole idea of this bill is long-term sustainability. This bill going to have very serious financial implications on all our infrastructure projects. Infrastructure is an enabler for growth and development. India is a signatory to substantial Sustainable Development Goals 2030, improving case of living and improving physical quality of life. Each individual is core of SDG. According to the recent estimate, India would need to spend $4.5 trillion on infrastructure by 2030. To realize this vision, a 5 trillion economy by 2025, adequate investment in infrastructure will meet the above mentioned factors. Madam, every government needs the strength to implement any infrastructure projects. Madam, if a project is stalled due to any reason, and if it is not received with specific time frame, it will become stressed assets. The bank which finances the projects will face the issue of NPA. There are various bottlenecks in the infrastructure projects implementation. There are several instances various international funding agencies pull out from the projects. For example, a Korean company which was keen to finance with the light metro rail project in Visakhapatnam on public-private partnership mode, the Korean side, after examining the proposal, conveyed their inability to finance the project. The project is still non-starter. For the last 7 years, the write-off amounts is more than 2 lakh crores for the more than 10 public sector banks, and recovery is very less. Maybe it may be less, 10% subject to correction. The question is recovery of the rest of the amount. We have to address the above issue before passing this bill. The need of the hour is seriousness in enforcement of projects. The instant bill has been designed in such a way it will provide necessary inputs to infrastructure sector. Under these circumstances,
Honourable Member, kindly.
Yes, finally, the clause number 35, it is in the, there is no CAC card, no CBI. It requires to rethink about this clause. However, under these circumstances, the proposal of the government to bring this legislation is a very welcome move.
Thank you.
I hope and believe that all of the
conclude.
stalled projects across the country will see the light. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Shri Satish Chandra Mishra ji.
Madam Vice Chairman, for giving this opportunity. Now, looking into the limited time, I would straight away come to the main issues. While applauding the intention and behind bringing this bank for the purposes of development, which should be the core thing for this country, which is required at this moment. And if not only because we have failed in earlier attempts, this attempt should also fail. That should not be the presumption. But while saying that, I would like to bring certain things for certain clarifications from the Honourable Finance Minister, and I'm sure she must be having those answers with her. The first is with respect to Clause 5, where foreign investment, which is mentioned also in Clause 22, with foreign investment, to what extent multilateral institution has not been defined, and to what extent the foreign investment can be taken. It is entire 74%, or there will be some restriction onto that requires to be, the Honourable Finance Minister would obviously be having the answer. The second issue is with respect to Clause 20. Now, Clause 20 says that performance will be reviewed by an external agency every 5 years. Now, this external agency has not been defined in the definition clause or anywhere. Which will be this external agency and what is meant by this external agency, and why every 5 years? Why not every year? Because in 5 years, whatever wrongs or whatever things would have come, it cannot be rectified in the 6th year. So it should be, and why it has been kept, we would like to know from the Honourable Finance Minister why this time gap of 5 years. Now, Section 29, it permits private players also to set up financial institutions in the same lines. Now, whether this provision was required to be brought in this Act, which is specifically with respect to a government bank, it's a national bank. Now, whether private investors who will be have been permitted similar thing to be brought by them, will they get all those immunities which are being provided to the national bank? It has not been clarified. And what are the norms and conditions which they will have to follow? Because in Section 25, in Section 35, it has been mentioned that the agencies, CBI, etc., and all those agencies, including ED, CBI, police, and CS fraud, they will not have any right to investigate. But it is not correct that they have no right at all. You have provided in clause 35 itself that it can be done, but with the previous approval. Now, only one thing I have, the previous approval of the competent authority, which has been defined. But at this moment, I would like to know from only half second, half a minute, from the Honourable Finance Minister, that the third proviso to this section 35 negates the entire section, because it says that if first proviso, second proviso gives a time limit that within this period, a sanction has to be given, approval has to be given. But then third proviso says if it is not given within this time, then it will not be deemed to be automatically given. So that means if a competent authority does not give at all, and this period of proviso first and second has no meaning left. So this may be considered whether this clause of proviso 3, which says that if not given, then it will not negate, what is the impact of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Member. Shri Praful Patel ji, he is not present in the House, so Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. And I thank all the honourable members who have very briefly but obviously raised very critical issues about this bill, which is seeking the acceptance of the House and to get passed. I'll try to address as much as all the questions that have been raised, but largely on many critical issues, I find members have referred back to the initial questions posed by Honourable Member Jairam Ramesh. So the 12 members who have spoken today and the issues that they have raised largely evolve or reel around the critical questions raised by Member Jairam Ramesh. But before I respond to the important questions raised by Jairam, I would like to just very quickly tell about the institution itself. Honourable Chairperson, sir, this is definitely a unique institution. Whilst India has always benefited, irrespective of party, politics, government, which is run by this party or that party, India has always benefited by the various institutional mechanisms which have been created every now and then to either with the statute or outside of it. They've all been created to benefit and to service the needs of the time which they've serviced and for which they have come out. So as the institutions were set up and as they contributed towards India's developmental requirements, and as time passed by, when their character and the references made to them also had to adapt and change accordingly. So some changes were coming in and some adaptations have happened. However, as one of our honourable members observed, many of them have outlived their time. So we have to obviously learn lessons from all of them, but yet not be so close-minded about, well, we've tried that earlier today, why should we go back? Need not be a handicap. On the contrary, sometimes when it is necessary, we may have to go back to a setup, which is, in this case, a statutorily backed institution, which many of the countries in the West, which are, if I can use loosely the term, which are very capitalist in nature, have also adopted that a parliament-backed institution will have to give that kind of a heft for institutions which are funding development. So we are not doing anything in the sense of, decrying institutions which existed earlier, but now going back to doing the same thing. It is clearly the need of the hour and need of the next 25 years in India's developmental story that we need an institution with that kind of an architecture, which has both the strength of the government backing it, at the same time being able to face the competition in the market. This act itself, as you would have, all honourable members would have recognized, gives space for private institutions also to come up, for whom we are giving the tax benefits for just 5 years of the first 5 years, whereas this institution gets the tax benefit for the first 10 years. So therefore, we have learned from the earlier experiences, and therefore we've designed it in such a way that it has the blend of both. And I'll just go back to underlining the need, establishing the need as to why we need an institution of this nature. Now, 2019 budget had this budget announcement of 100 lakh crores which will be invested for infrastructure over the next 5 years. By that year end, we came up with a national infrastructure pipeline which had more than 6,000 then, now which has grown up to 7,000 such projects, all of which relate to infrastructure, and infrastructure just not roads and bridges, but the definition of what constitutes infrastructure is also something which I very quickly want to refer and inform the members. There is an April 2016 notification which is also very clearly identifying of the infrastructure subsectors. Many of the members said, what is it? Infrastructure means only the roads and bridges. The transport, energy, water, communication, and water sanitation, communication, and social commercial infrastructure are well defined. So this institution will fund all of those activities, and it is not going to be just confining itself to bridges and shipyards and ports. Social infrastructure includes educational institution, so the capital stock of the institution will be treated as infrastructure. Hospitals, again, capital stock will be treated as infrastructure. So these are also part of what is defined as infrastructure, which this developmental finance institution will fund. So this list itself is rather self-explanatory about how expansive this institution is going to be looking at in terms of the field for which it is being created. So then, from among the lessons learned is the fact that development finance is highly risky an area. It is long-term in terms of gestation, and you also need higher credit costs to be calculated, and therefore the failure possibilities also become a part of the calculation. And therefore, this is an area in which, like the way we've seen in the last decade or so, regular scheduled commercial banks entering this domain always creates asset liability mismatches, because these banks borrow short-term and lend long-term. As a result, there's always going to be an asset liability mismatch, which is not going to be good for the financial sector. So the other point which is very clearly got to be recognized even at the beginning is, it is not as if we are dependent only on FDI. It is not as if we are dependent only on sovereign funds which come to invest in Indian infrastructure. I agree, Indian infrastructure will have to be funded even by Indian savings, Indian investments. But to create Indian investments, or to create an ecosystem for Indian investments to be able to invest in building infrastructure, the ecosystem will have to have some kind of a institutional arrangement, which is what I said in the budget, and rightly it was pointed out by Jairam Ramesh. And I will give a separate answer for that as to what is that institutional mechanism which Honourable Member raised as a question, saying what is that institutional mechanism which you think you're going to be bringing in, both for deepening the bond markets and also for funding infrastructure. For funding infrastructure, I'm speaking today about this statutory All India financial institution that we are creating, which will have both developmental and financial objectives. Developmental is that it shall be the provider, that it shall be the enabler, and that it shall be the catalyst for the ecosystem of infrastructure funding. It will also support every attempt to deepen and to bring in more liquid bond market of international standards. It will facilitate the development of derivative markets and also other innovative financial instruments. So on the financial side, very clearly it will be the institution which will lend for infra projects, and more importantly, it will establish a credible framework for both equity and debt investments. It will attract investments from both domestic and global institutional investors as well as domestic retail investors. So we are not just depending on FDIs. So we need to recognize that we have made a provision for leveraging both the capital available within the country and also through the global institutions. Ownership, very quickly, all of you all have very clearly read that and spoken about it. We start with 100%. Eventually, sometime, long time afterwards, it will come down to 26, but there will always be 26% presence of the government at all times. Very quickly also on the governance structure and management, it will be professionally run. The government will appoint only the chairman. But the institutional arrangement for the appointments of members or the MDs and the DMDs will be done and recommended by the Bank Board Bureau, the BBB, and it will be vetted and finalized by the Nomination and Remuneration Committee of the board. So the appointments will be done by the board and not by the government, so it will have to be professionally run. And all the safeguards have been provided, and on that point, a lot of members have raised this question saying, you have given them safeguards, you've given them far too much of safeguards, they are not going to be answerable to anybody. I will definitely answer that by going back for a minute to clause 26, if I remember correct. Clause 26 in chapter 6 of the Act itself, which is before us for consideration. And there you will see in paragraph 5, and I read that as a quotation from here, the institution, which is this institution that we are considering today, the institution shall furnish to the central government and the Reserve Bank within 4 months from the date on which its accounts are closed and balanced, a copy of its balance sheet and accounts, together with a copy of the auditor's report and a report of the working of the relevant year. Honourable Member Satish Mishra did raise why only 5 years. No, every year. But the report later by a third party is on once in 5 years. But here we are saying every year. So the working of the institution during the relevant year, and the central government shall, as soon as maybe after they have received by it, cause the same to be laid before each house of the parliament. We are getting that report, audited report, to be placed in each of the house of the parliament. Now, the institution shall furnish from time to time to the central government and to the Reserve Bank of India such returns as the central government or the Reserve Bank may require. Every time the government would want something from them, they will demand of it, and it will have to be submitted by them. The point that Honourable Member Satish Mishra raised was for a third-party assessment about their whole, functioning, which can be done once in 5 years, is what we have said. But otherwise, every year audited account comes to each house of the parliament. I want to absolutely state that upfront. It's part of the Act itself. We are not saying we are going to bring it in the rules. It's made as a part of the Act that this shall come to the parliament. Resource raising capacity, we've already spoken about it. I understand Rameshji talking about the capital, that we have provided the authorized capital of 1 lakh crore, and 20,000 is the equity we've given, and about 5,000 crores is given as grant, so that they can immediately start looking at ways in which cost of funds can be brought down, so they will have something in lieu of potential cost savings expected from the issue of a tax-free bond and so on. The issue again about sovereign guarantee. I want to just underline that yes, a sovereign guarantee is being provided, but that is only, that's the provision provided under section 17(3). It's an enabling provision with the decision to be taken by the government. So it's not as if it's blanket, it is an enabling provision which is mentioned under 17(3). So resource raising capacity is something which is very clear. Priority sector lending shortfalls, we will take that also on board. Access low-cost funding even for the priority sector lending. which sometimes suffers for want of resources, even that will be addressed by this. Even better, this institution will be able to access the line of credit from RBI. Therefore, it will be possible for it to very quickly meet up the demands, particularly from the social sector, for creating the infrastructure in that area. Other notable features of this bill, sir, which I would want the honourable members' attention drawn, are that the framework to enable RBI to issue licenses and issue regulations for granting of licenses for other infrastructure focused DFIs in the private sector is also provided for in this law. So what will happen is RBI, if it finds an applicant meets the regulation as stipulated by it, is completely compliant, they will be in a position to consider issuing licenses. So there will be, for healthy competition, creation of DFIs in the private areas also. As I said earlier, they will be exempt from tax for 5 years. The institution and other DFIs will operate within the prudential framework of RBI. This institution shall also have that role of an institution to resolve disputes which may arise in the field of infrastructure funding. So broadly, the character of the institution is, as I described here, specific issues of concern which were raised by Honourable Member Jairam Ramesh, which was referred to by many members, is this is not beyond oversight. The reports every year are going to come to the House of the Parliament, both houses. Audited reports are going to come in here. And as and when the government is going to ask them for a report, they are duty bound to give it, and it shall come here. So Parliament's oversight annually is envisaged and built into the Act itself. So that question definitely gets answered. There was this question about, it's all right, you're looking at funds coming from elsewhere. What happens to incentivizing savings within the country? How are Indian savings going to be? So DFI will need long-term funds, and that is well recognized. It will therefore have to be able to issue long-dated paper domestically, and which in turn will encourage domestic savings. And with this said, I now go to that point which again Jairam raised about my budget announcements. I want to read that from the budget. To instill confidence among the participants in corporate bond market during times of stress and to generally enhance secondary market liquidity, it is proposed to create a permanent institutional framework. The proposed body would purchase investment-grade debt securities both in stressed and normal times and help in the development of bond market. This is what I had said in the budget. I'll just explain as to how this institutional arrangement is being envisaged. Mutual funds, as we know, sir, account for 60 to 70% of trades in corporate bond market. Commercial papers and certificate of deposits thereby facilitating fundraising by issuers who are banks, corporates, NBFCs, and also housing finance corporation. A cardinal principle of mutual funds is liquidity. Their liquidity depends on liquidity of their invested instruments, particularly corporate bonds. However, liquidity, illiquidity, and market freeze is particularly dominant in corporate bond market, especially around stress times and distressing selling by mutual funds, leading to a contagion effect. We saw recently how, because of one of the mutual funds having a genuine problem, it had a very rattling effect in the market. So, sir, there is clearly an advantage, which all of us recognize, in moving to the bond market from a bank finance-led model to avoid asset liability mismatch, issues which arise out of it, transparent pricing, and also to take more market-oriented systems. And that is why, as the financial sector evolves from a bank-dominated system to a more market-oriented system. Supporting financial markets become an important aspect and important step which the government has to be responsible about. Hence, a permanent arrangement mentioned in my budget, a permanent arrangement of an SPV facility is considered for providing liquidity so that they can act as the buyer of the last resort during stress times and to some extent even acting as a market maker during times of peace. The SEBI, therefore, will be setting up a fund titled Corporate Debt Market Development Fund, CDMDF, which will be set up as an alternative investment fund to provide this liquidity facility to mutual funds and other participating institutional investors in the corporate bond market. This essentially means it will function as the buyer of the last resort for stressed corporate bonds which are of investment grade during stressed times. So the key mandate of this particular facility which the SEBI is creating as a fund, development fund, trading will be one of it, trading in corporate debt with a focus on below AAA rated papers. But however, those papers will have to be of investment grade during non-stress periods. And the second and the final is to have capability to buy and hold single or a basket of corporate debt securities from secondary market during times of systemic stress. We saw that happening during late 2019 and also when liquidity was an issue, when NBFCs were sitting with a lot of papers which were not even investment grade. There was a lot of effort put by the government together with the Reserve Bank to sort that out between the NBFCs and the banks. That experience has been teaching us a few things which I'm glad the SEBI is addressing in this form so that they will have a given formulation to address such stress during stressful time and during peaceful times how to handle it. So the SEBI is working out the operational details of this facility in consultation with the Department of Economic Affairs. The special SPV is proposed to be jointly set up with the contribution of the mutual funds and also other institutional investors. However, the majority ownership shall be with a subsidiary of a public sector mutual fund. So that's the arrangement, in short, which was indicated in the budget speech. Sir, I think also one other issue which I would like to draw the members and their I would like to draw the attention of the members and for them to take cognizance of. And this is a very interesting aspect which SEBI had mentioned to me even during the COVID period. There is naturally a tendency now, particularly the savings which comes out of middle classes, to not be risk averse. So they don't mind moving out of post office savings or bank savings into the stock markets. They are looking at very credible, well-listed, transparent, board-driven decision-making companies and directly investing in them. So Indian savings is not purely now dependent on risk-free public sector savings. It's also moving into the stock market. How do we establish that? I've got a month-by-month data in the year running from January 20 to February 21. The growth in the number of demat accounts opened during the month, demat accounts of which 99% of them are, of these demats are individual category accounts. So they are not large funds which are investing, but the demat accounts here that I'm telling you is of individual category accounts. If in January 20 there were 6,30,292 demat accounts opened during a month, that today is gone to 17,88,654 individual accounts. Now, if this is during the month, they obviously open and shut, and end of the month is the indicator that we take. There has been a 27% growth in the end of the month account, that which continues to be there. February 20, sir, there were 4,129,252 demat accounts at the end of the month, which means they continue to be there, which today has reached 5,31,14,800, a 27% increase, which means today Indian savings indicator is not just that which goes into savings accounts which are risk-free in the banks or in post offices, but they're moving towards directly engaging in the stock market with listed stocks shares which are open there for everybody to see. Many of them may not probably even go through the mutual fund routes. So these are the ways in which the savings attitude of the Indian citizens are changing, and unless institutions make provision for it, like the way the SEBI is thinking in terms of a fund, like the way this DFI is coming up, like the way the NIIF is, the National Infrastructure Investment Fund, all of which have a chance, and like the way I take this opportunity, LIC funds infrastructure, no doubt, rightly pointed out by many members, but LIC should also now be accessible for that retail investor who wants to invest in them. So this IPO is not for government to get out of it, whereas to make more Indians participate in it, to put the money, a very large amount of what LIC has today is policyholders' money. Whereas when individuals want to become owners of it, they are being given an opportunity by the IPO so that they can invest. So to have policyholders' money is one thing, but to have Indian retail investors to become owners of shares of LIC is a totally different thing. So I think we have to recognize both these much before we even think in terms of, what's happening? Is it all getting privatized? No. Many of the IPO owners which are going to go to the retail investors are making retail Indian owners to become part of the LIC's ownership framework. So, sir, these are the broad features. I think I've answered many of the members' concerns. One last point which Honourable Member Satish Mishra raised. Private versus public. Treatment is not at par, obviously. I can't give everything that I give for a government-run DFI to a private institution. I give the initial 5-year tax incentive only because I want more funds to come to them also. It shouldn't become I've created a government institution with all the, let's say, lollipops, and the private one doesn't have any, and therefore they are not getting equal treatment. I've extended the tax benefits for 5 years, but after that, they should be smart enough to become competitive enough. I think I've answered why 5 years. I didn't notice that. You may want to. Can I please take the liberty of writing back to you on it in detail?
Where CBI, etc., all agencies.
Oh, that is why I said.
No, in the third proviso, second proviso, they said that within 3 months, the competent authority will give the approval, extended by 1 month. With reasons. But third proviso says if it is not given approval within this time,
I get you.
It will not be required. So that's
yes. No, I think I would want you to. Yes, it very clearly explains that within a certain period you are expected to give the clearance. And if you don't, normally you have a positive affirmation saying it should be deemed as given. Here we're putting it the other way. It is not deemed as necessarily given. You take it within 3 months, otherwise, sorry, no, it's not happening. That's the implication. So with that, sir, I hope I've answered all the members' concerns. And
Thank you, Finance
appeal
Minister.
to everybody to pass
The question is that the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021 has passed by Lok Sabha be taken into consideration. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted. We shall now take up class by class consideration of the bill. Class 2 to 48, the first schedule and second schedule and the third schedule stand part of the bill. Those in favor will please say aye. Those against will please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Class 2 to 48, first schedule, second schedule, and the third schedule are adopted. Class 1, the enacting formula, the title stand part of the bill. Those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it, the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Clause 1, the enacting formula and the title are adopted. Honorable Finance Minister, to move that the bill be passed.
Sir, I rise to move that the bill be passed.
Motion moved that the bill be passed. The question is that the bill be passed. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it, ayes have it, ayes have it. The bill is passed. Permitted special mentions. Because of the paucity of time, the member whose name is called should raise in their seat and say, I place my special mention one line on the table of the House. Srimati Kanta Kardam, not there. Okay. Sri A.D. Singh, Sri A.D. Singh ji.
I place the special mention on the table of the House.
Thank you. Sri Sakaldeep Rajbhar, Sakaldeep Rajbhar ji.
इसको इस
सभा पटल
पर रखते हैं.
ठीक है. श्री हरनाथ सिंह यादव,
सभा पटल पर रखता हूँ.
गुड. श्री जयप्रकाश निषाद,
रखता हूँ.
श्री राजीव सातव, राजीव थे. ठीक है. श्री राम विचार नेतम, श्री अखिलेश प्रसाद सिंह,
Rule of the House.
right.
Sir,
Pollution in Patna.
This is about Patna,
Right.
और मुजफ्फरपुर.
श्रीमती प्रियंका चतुर्वेदी,
Honorable Chairman, I place my special mention on the, on the table of the House.
Right.
Thank you.
Don't worry. श्री कैलाश सोनी जी,
पटल पर रखता हूँ.
ठीक है. मेरा स्पेशल मेंशन सभा पटल पर रखता हूँ ऐसा कहना. And I wanted them to make it short until everybody is making further short. श्रीमती ममता मोहंता, माँ.
स्पेशल मेंशन में सब्जेक्ट ओडिशा का राउरकेला में मलेरिया सेंटर को ट्रांसफर ना करने पर.
राइट. श्री वी विजय साई रेड्डी,
Sir, I place my
special mention. Special mention.
Sir, I place my special mention on table. The special mention is relating to increase the participation of women in electoral politics.
Right.
Thank you.
Sri Subhash Chandra Bose Pillai, Subhash Chandra Bose ji, हाँ.
I have submitted my special mention and demand to restore Samata Express and Mangal Lakshmadeep Express with their old timings.
Dr. Sasmit Patra.
Table of the House. The issue is regarding inclusion of 13.95 lakh houses of PMAY in the permanent
Right.
notice.
Dr. Ami Agnik.
Sir, I lay the papers of my special mention on the table. The issue is need for immediate steps and comprehensive policy for the homeless people of our country.
Sri Mallikarjun Kharge.
Sir, just I wanted to raise it, but unfortunately, the time is not there. Sir, I wish to raise a very grave issue of attack and harassment of two nuns who were traveling from Delhi to Orissa via Haridwar, Puri, Kalinga, Utkal Express.
Right.
So rest, I
right on the table.
lay on the table.
Sri Shiva Pratap Shukla.
एनसीईआरटी में की पुस्तकों में उनको स्थान नहीं दिया गया है. उनको एनसीईआरटी की पुस्तकों में स्थान दिया जाए कि उन्होंने डच ईस्ट इंडिया कंपनी को हराया था. और मैं सदन के पत्र पर रखता हूं.
Honorable members, 3 of our colleagues Sri Vavilala Ravi, Sri K.K. Ragesh, and Sri Abdul Wahab, representing the state of Kerala, will be retiring on 21st April 2021 on completion of their term of office. Members, among the other things, an institution is made as well as defined by the individuals constituting it. Individuals may come and go, but the institution keeps on functioning. Associating with the contributions made by the individuals, this institution always be functioning. Similar has been the case with this great institution, which has largely been shaped by the lasting contribution of the members who have come and adored the office and left after playing their part. Carrying forward the legacy of retiring members have contributed significantly to deliberation of the House and parliamentary committees, and in the process have nurtured and strengthened our parliamentary democracy and enhanced the dignity and prestige of this august House. They may be leaving the House, but their contribution will leave an indelible mark on this august institution, which the members as well as the newly elected members will continue to cherish and benefit from them. I place on record my heartfelt appreciation for the valuable contribution and service rendered by them to this august institution and to the society at large. The House will certainly miss their vivacious presence and their unwavering commitment to the issues pertaining to the state of Kerala and also to the national issues of importance. I wish the retiring members good health, happiness, and many more years of service to the nation. They are only retiring, but they are not tired. So, Sri Vaidala Raviji is an active social worker and a writer. He held important positions, member of the 5th and 6th Lok Sabha and also member of Kerala Legislative Assembly from 82 to 91. Sri Ravi also served as member of the Rajya Sabha for 4 terms. Sri Ravi has dedicated his entire life to public service and has served many important distinguished positions in the state and the national and international level. He served as Union Minister for holding several portfolios as overseas Indian affairs, parliamentary affairs, civil aviation, science and technology. 1 minute, Raviji. I'll call you. Earth Science and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, and also chairman of the department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Human Resource Development. Beside this, he also served as the Home Minister of Kerala. You want to say something? Please.
Thank you, sir. Respected Chairman, I elected to this prestigious institution in 1970. Sorry. I'm a little emotional. 1971, an elected member of the Lok Sabha from Trivandrum district. In fact, I born in the Vailar village in Alapi district. Vailar is still very famous because of the revolution by the Communist Party in 1946. I was a school student. I still remember those days. Mr. Chairman, my political life began during my days in ST College, Alapi, and Magaraj College, Ernakulam. And Ernakulam Magaraj College in my life, which I found my partner, Mercy Ravi. Unfortunately, she is no more. Prime Minister Indira Gandhi raised the slogan, Garibi Hatao, in 1971. I won an election, and I won the election and began up my parliamentary life as one of the youngest members of the Lok Sabha. I enjoyed actively participated in all kinds of activities in Lok Sabha and re-elected in 1977. But I lost in 1980 because people more sensible than me, because I went against Indira Gandhi. So, it's a fact, is it not? Huh?
have the guts to say that.
The Congress party has given me the opportunity to serve the people of our country as a member of Lok Sabha for 2 times and Rajya Sabha for 4 times. And between I became a cabinet minister for 8 years. I am very thankful to the Congress party and the leader of Indira Gandhi and others for giving me this opportunity to serve our nation, the Mother India. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Raviji. Great. All the best.
Emotional.
Sri K.K. Ragesh, MP, is an active social worker, avid writer. He served as member of the Rajya Sabha from April 2015 to April 2021. Sri K.K. Ragesh has authored a book titled Swasaraya Niyama Pratiksha Prativirodham, which translates into Act to Regulate Self-Finance Institutions, Problems and Projects, Prospects 2007. Besides this, he has also served as editor of the Karshaka Nadam, Voice of Farmers, and also published several articles on a wide range of issues relating to economic and agricultural sectors, farmers, their rights, education, telecom, and petroleum sectors in leading dailies and periodicals. Honorable members, you are all aware, Sri Ragesh is one of the most active members in this House. He always used to add to the enlightened debates. So we'll be missing him, but he'll be active in public life, I am confident. And he's not there because you know the reason. He's busy there. Sri Abdul Wahab is an industrialist, an active social worker. He has also served as member of the Rajya Sabha for 2 terms. Sri Abdul Wahab served as the chairman of various organizations, including Keralium, an NGO working for HIV-affected people, Calicut Airport Development Committee, and also as president of the Nidambur Orphanage, etc. He also is a member of Islamic Chair, Calicut University, Kerala State Hajj Committee, and also Kerala Waqf Board. He is also associated with many of the educational institutions. Sri Wahab, you want to say something, please?
Thank you, Chairman Sahib and the Rajya Sabha team. I came here in 2004 during the time of Vajpayee when he was Prime Minister. That time, Rajagopal ji was the Parliamentary Affairs Minister, and he supported me the first few months. He taught me how to run this Rajya Sabha and all. And Mr. Vijayaraghavan of CPM and Samadhani of my party was there that time. Till 2010, I was here, and again 2015 I came. I could work with as Vajpayee, then Mr. our Sadalji Singh, and now with Modi ji, all 3 prime ministers and different parliamentary affair ministers also. Starting it was Rajagopal ji, now it is from our own place again. It is an iron, I don't know how it came. Now Mr. V. Muralidharan. And I am very happy to retire now, but unfortunately I don't know for what reasons this government or with the law ministry making some references. Election Commission has stayed the Rajya Sabha election. I don't know, I will be coming again. But anyway, if Rajya Sabha is there, I will try to come again here. Because I don't know yesterday what happened in Delhi. AAP government was ruling, suddenly all the powers given to LG. Just like that, I don't know, Rajya Sabha charge will be given to somebody else later. So if Rajya Sabha is here, I will try to come again, and I hope so. And all my respect to you, especially being the chairman, gave me a lot of chances, and I tried my level best as a member of parliament. I appreciate whatever political, ideological differences between Modi ji, but his one project which attracted me, this village adoption. This I have done my level best, and according to the Government of India, I got the 5th rank in my this one, Sansad Adarsh Grama Yojana, this one. Even though I am not in Rajya Sabha, I will be working on that project without SAGI and all, concentrating on taking the panchayats and all, this one sponsoring. And I will try to come if Modi ji allows me to come here again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhabji. You don't worry, Rajya Sabha will be there. Meanwhile, you start working in local sabhas, and then at an appropriate time, if God willing, then you will get an opportunity. I hope the entire House joins me in conveying best wishes to these three members. Kharge ji, LOP.
Sir, today we bid farewell to three of our colleagues from Kerala, Sri Vaila Ravi, Sri P.V. Abdul Wahab, and Sri K.K. Ragesh, who are retiring. I wish to place on record my deep appreciation for their dedicated service as parliamentarian in this House of Elders in raising effectively various public welfare issues. They have been relentless in their efforts to constantly strive for upliftment of people, particularly those from the marginalized sections of society. Despite having different political ideologies, because all the three members have got different ideologies, but still they are one in doing the work of public. This is the strength and greatness of India's democratic polity, which is inclusive, truly representative, and wholly welfare-oriented. Sri Vaila Ravi has been associated with us for more than 50 years. I have had the privilege for voting for him twice in AICC Working Committee in Tirupati and Kolkata. He was always pro-poor and is a strong believer in the sacred values of secularism and socialism. At the same time, our other two colleagues have also been committed to the cause of the people of this country. I wish my retiring colleagues all the best, good health, and I am sure they will continue working for the greater public good in future too.
Thank you, Kharge ji. Leader of the House.
माननीय सभापति महोदय, आज केरल से आने वाले और केरल राज्य का प्रतिनिधित्व करने वाले श्री अब्दुल वहाब जी, श्री के रागेश जी, श्री वाइला रवि जी तीनों अपना सफलतापूर्वक कार्यकाल पूरा कर रहे हैं। तीनों सदन में ये केरल प्रांत का प्रतिनिधित्व करते थे। हमारे वरिष्ठ सदस्य हैं, सदन की कार्यवाही में सक्रिय रूप से भागीदारी सुनिश्चित करते रहे हैं। शेष बातें जो आपने उल्लेखित की है उससे अपने आप को सहमत करता हूं और मेरी हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं तीनों सदस्यों को है। ईश्वर उन्हें स्वस्थ रखें, सानंद रखें और भविष्य में भी इनके विशिष्ट और व्यापक अनुभवों का लाभ मिलता रहे, ऐसी शुभकामनाएं देते हुए उनसे अपेक्षा करता हूं, विश्वास करता हूं कि वे देश हित में और जनहित में काम करते रहेंगे। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद तवरचंद जी। Honorable Leader of the House, Sri Tawarchand Gehlot ji, respected Leader of the Opposition, Sri Mallikarjun Kharge ji, Minister of Parliament Affairs, Sri Prahlad Joshi, and also Sri Muralidharan, Honorable Leaders of various parties and groups in the House, and Honorable Members, Honorable Deputy Chairman, we are concluding the 253rd session of Rajya Sabha today. This is the second session of Parliament which has been held under the shadow of pandemic, in which all COVID-related protocols and standard operating procedures evolved during the last monsoon session to conduct the session in a safe environment have been followed. I am happy to note that the cooperation of all members, we were able to conduct the business of the House smoothly. Honourable members, as Chairman of this August House, I would like to give a brief account of the performance of this House during this session. As you know, this budget session of Parliament is being adjourned sine die ahead of its schedule, as against total 33 sittings scheduled from January 29th to April 8th. We are concluding after having 23 sittings. The budget session provided opportunities to members of this House to deliberate on the issues concerning economic growth and recovery, especially in the post-COVID phase. Honourable members, this House functioned for a total of 104 hours and 23 minutes against the total scheduled time of 116 hours and 31 minutes during these 23 sittings. This, in effect, means the productivity of this in both the parts of this budget session has been about 90%, while the productivity of the first part of the session has been 99.6%. Productivity of the second part of the session that began on March 8th comes to about 85%. A total of 21 hours and 26 minutes of the House has been lost due to disruptions during this session. Comforting, however, is the fact that as against this loss, the House sat beyond the scheduled time for about 14 hours and 28 minutes to complete the legislative and other business. I am happy to inform you that high productivity witnessed during the last 4 sessions since June 2019, 249th, 250, 251st and 252nd sessions have continued in this session as well. As a result, overall productivity of the last 4 sessions and this session comes to about 94%. I appeal to all to maintain this positive momentum in the functioning of the House during this year as well as in future also. We need to strive towards achieving 100% productivity, knowing that we are working under extraordinary circumstances. Honourable members, I am happy that this August House saw a passionate and quality debate and discussions on the motion of thanks to the President's address and the Union Budget 2021-22. The discussion on motion of thanks on the President's address took place on 4 days with a duration of 15 hours and 37 minutes, with 50 members taking part in it. The Union Budget was discussed for 10 hours and 43 minutes on 3 days, with 45 members participating in it. It may be noted that 0 hour on 4th and 5th February, question hour on 3rd and 4th and 5th February, and the private members' business on 5th February were dispensed with to give more time for discussion on motion of thanks on the President's address. Honourable members, as regards this legislative output, this House has passed 19 bills, including consideration and return of the appropriation bill and the finance bill. 34 hours and 4 minutes time has been spent on the discussion of the government bills, which comes about 42% of the total functioning of the time of this House spent on legislative business. As many as 199 members participated in the discussion on the bills. Some of the important bills you are all aware: Kashmir Reorganization Amendment Bill, Arbitration Conciliation Amendment Bill, Major Ports Amendment Bill, Medical Termination of Pregnancy Bill, National Commission for Allied and Healthcare Profession Bill, National Institute of Food and Technology, Entrepreneurship and Management Bill, the Insurance Amendment Bill, the Mines and Minerals Amendment Bill, the Constitution Scheduled Caste Amendment Bill, the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Bill, and the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development Bill 2021, etc. Honourable members, the working of 3 important ministries, namely Jal Shakti, Railways and Tourism, has been discussed for 11 hours and 13 minutes, which comes to about 11% of the total functional time of the House. 61 members participated in the discussions on the functioning of these ministries. Members raised a total of 273 issues of urgent public importance through 163 zero-hour submissions, 110 special mentions. The zero-hour submissions and special mentions made during this session covered a wide range of important issues. As regards the question, a total of 113 starred questions have been orally answered, which comes to 34% of the total 329 starred questions in the state. 11 hours and 50 minutes have been spent on seeking answers from the government through these starred questions. Ministers also made statements on important issues such as avalanche in Chamori district of Uttarakhand, the present situation in the eastern Ladakh, recent developments pertaining to the welfare of Indians abroad, NRIs and PIOs in the COVID situation, India's vaccine Maitri initiative, and a vehicle scrapping policy. Honourable members, during the recess period, 8 department-related parliamentary standing committees of the Rajya Sabha examined demands for grants and related ministries and departments for the financial year 2021-22 and presented 28 reports in this regard. Besides, these committees presented 21 action-taken reports and 6 reports on subjects taken up by them and 2 reports on bills referred to them. I compliment the chairmen and also members of 8 department-related parliamentary standing committees of Rajya Sabha for their efforts towards improving the functioning of the committees. However, there are some areas of concern, such as the less attendance of members and the duration of the meetings, which need further improvements. I urge all the party leaders of respective parties to sensitize their members to take the committee's work seriously, given their importance and relevance in our parliamentary system, ensuring executive accountability on behalf of the parliament. I propose to communicate to the leaders about the attendance of their members, each members, so that they can take stock of the situation, advise the honourable members in this regard. Honourable members, orientation program for the newly elected and nominated members was organized by Rajya Sabha Secretariat on 13th and 14th March to familiarize them with the rules and procedures governing the functioning of the Parliament, particularly Rajya Sabha. I am happy to note there were the encouraging response members. Out of 71 members, 34 members, including Honourable Minister for External Affairs, Jay Shankarji, attended this program. I am told that the members were highly appreciative of the contents and conduct of the program. I compliment the Secretary General and his officers for successfully organizing the program. Honourable members, as I have mentioned in the House, earlier I mentioned that we are entering the 75th year of our independence. And to mark this historic occasion, the government have planned to celebrate it as Azadi Ka Amrita Mahotsav, with several events spread across the country. While this special occasion provides all of us, citizens of the country, an opportunity to cherish the values and ideals of our freedom fighters stood for and helped our country to gain freedom from the colonial rule. It also calls for serious introspection of the functioning of our legislatures and their members. People expect meaningful and purposeful debates and discussions, high standards of conduct from their elected representatives. Members of the Parliament have to work diligently and effectively to meet the expectations of the people. As House of Elders, Rajya Sabha has to lead by example. Our responsibilities have become more onerous, especially in the context of these pandemic challenges, which calls for determined and corrective efforts by all stakeholders. Therefore, we should be guided by the mantra of debate, discuss and decide, and we proceed towards Atmanirbhar Bharat and not disrupt. This is the only way forward in these challenging times. This will go a long way sustaining the trust and confidence of the people in our parliamentary institutions and in deepening the democratic culture of our country. Honourable members, we have been able to contain the spread of the pandemic in the country with the coordinated efforts of all concerned, with centre and states working as Team India. It's a matter of pride for all of us that India is playing an important role in vaccination drive of many countries with supply of millions of doses of vaccine to several countries. There is, however, surge in the COVID-19 cases in some of the states, which is a cause of concern for all of us. I had also made an appeal to the members of Parliament. I once again reiterate the same. Please guide the people to follow the guidelines issued by the central and state governments for containing the spread of virus, as people's representatives, members of parliament are expected to be available for consultation and guidance required by the people in the states and the constituencies. As the vaccination process is underway, I also appeal to all of you who are eligible to take the vaccine and also see to it that eligible people volunteer to take this vaccine. Even though the vaccines are being administered, we should not lower our guard against the virus. The Prime Minister has aptly said, Dawa hai bhi, kadai bhi, reminding that the people to guard against the complacency and continue to follow COVID-19 appropriate behavior. Honorable members, the prevailing pandemic has forced all of us to adopt a novel methods to adapt to this new situation with greater use of digital resources. This time, as you know, our digital copies of the budget documents and economic survey were also made available to them through this portal. I urge to all of you to use this online facility to the maximum possible extent so that we could adjust to this new normal. I take this opportunity to thank the Leader of the House, Leader of the Opposition, Ministers of Parliamentary Affairs, leaders of various political parties and groups, and also honourable members for their cooperation extended by them in the overall functioning of the House. The credit for better functioning of the House do not go to the chairman. It goes to all the members. With your cooperation only, this is made possible. So you have a onerous responsibility to see that all of us maintain standards and set example to others. In the end, I offer my special thanks to the Deputy Chairman, Sri Harivamsiji, and members of the panel of Vice Chairman for the seamless conduct of the proceedings of the House. I place on record my appreciation to the Secretary General and his team for hard-working and committed officers, and also the staff of the Parliamentary Security Forces for their untiring efforts. My warmest greetings to all of you on the occasion of Ugadi, marking the beginning of the Telugu New Year. In fact, this is actually a festival time when many people across the country usher in the New Year. A few days ago, Parsi brothers welcomed the New Year, Navroz. Sindhi brothers and sisters will be shortly welcoming the New Year as Chetti Chand, while the people of the two Telugu states, Andhra and Telangana, call it Ugadi, and in our neighboring Karnataka, it's called as Ugadi. The people of Maharashtra celebrate it as Gudi Padwa, and in Tamil Nadu, it is observed as Puthandu, which is falling on 14th, while our Malayali sisters and brothers celebrate the occasion as Vishu in Kerala, and in the Punjab, always they have the festival of Vaishakhi. In Odisha, it is called as Pana Sanskriti, Purila Varshika, Bangla Navavarsha, ushers in the New Year in West Bengal. Bohag Bihu marks the beginning of the New Year in Assam. The names may differ, but the festive spirit suffused with joy, hope and togetherness is the same. Ensuring this, we also have the Good Friday that is also coming, and also Ram Navami, the coming days, Mahavir Jayanti, Eid al-Fitr and Buddha Purnima also. I also take this opportunity to compliment both print and electronic media, including Sunset TV, for their sustained interest in the proceedings of the House and their transmission to the people. My best wishes to all of you once again. I have sent greetings today because we will not be here on 14th April and also onwards. That's why greetings have been sent to your respective places in your respective mother tongue. I wish you all the best. Sabko shubhkamnaएं. Thank you. Jai Hind. The House stands adjourned. Saturday. होली का सबको होली का शुभकामनाएं।